Right now, industrial grids in Bangladesh are blacking out. The Philippines has declared a national energy emergency. And in Pakistan, the price of gasoline has tripled to over 500 rupees a liter. A few thousand miles away, Europe is holding on, but barely. They are currently operating on just 30% of their total gas capacity to keep their cities running. This diagram shows the geographic route of the immediate physical shortage. Due to the ongoing conflict and blocked logistical routes in the Middle East, roughly 20 million barrels of daily oil supply are trapped and unable to reach the global market. With the Middle East essentially paralyzed, countries desperately looked to the only two producers large enough to fill a gap that massive, the United States and Russia. But that backup plan is collapsing. This is Port Arthur in Texas, the most critical oil refining hub in the United States, responsible for processing hundreds of thousands of barrels every single day. On the evening of March 23rd, a massive explosion rocked this complex. The blast was so violent it rattled windows in nearby towns, and it completely destroyed a highly specific piece of hardware known as a hydrotreater. This abstract diagram illustrates what a hydrotreater actually does. It takes raw, high-sulfur crude oil and chemically strips out the sulfur particles. Removing that sulfur creates what the industry calls sweet crude, which is the clean baseline needed to refine modern fuels. Without that piece of equipment, the crude cannot be processed. That single fire instantly wiped out America's ability to refine 435,000 barrels of oil per day. Losing that much processing power immediately chokes the outward flow of finished products. Everything from gasoline and diesel to liquid petroleum gas, or LPG, the fuel used globally for cooking and heating, is suddenly in short supply. On the other side of the globe, the supply chain took another hit. In the Baltic Sea sits Primorsk Port, Russia's highest volume node for exporting oil. Recently, a highly targeted Ukrainian drone strike hit the facility directly, forcing the entire operation offline. This schematic shows why this port is vital. Crude flows from pipelines in western Siberia directly into 12 massive storage tanks on the water. From there, oil funnels into 6 loading berths, simultaneously filling 6 enormous transport ships, each holding 1 million barrels. Knocking out those storage tanks instantly severed 20% of Russia's total seaborne oil exports, right when the international market was desperate for them. These choke point failures in Texas and Russia are happening precisely as the United Arab Emirates announces a freeze on gas production, and major suppliers like Qatar cancel liquid gas contracts destined for Europe and Asia. When you add the trapped barrels in the Middle East to the offline refineries in the US and the damaged ports in Russia, the math stops working. The global energy supply chain has fallen into a severe deficit. Yet, if you look at India, you won't find the fuel rationing or empty gas stations currently paralyzing its neighbors. That stability is the direct result of a calculated strategy, the diversification policy. Instead of relying on one or two major partners, India aggressively spreads its energy dependency across multiple competing global nodes. Following recent U.S. sanction waivers, Reliance Industries capitalized on a new opening and imported 5 million barrels of crude directly from Iran, tapping into a previously dormant supply line. They didn't stop there. India has reactivated oil imports from Venezuela, secured new natural gas shipments from Argentina, and expanded purchasing contracts across several African nations. By trading the entire globe as a menu of backup suppliers, this multi-continent approach ensures physical fuel keeps flowing into Indian reserves, even when major international hubs shut down. But physical supply is only half the equation. Having enough gas to fill the tanks doesn't protect a country from what that gas actually costs. Because tens of millions of barrels are missing from the global pool, international trading markets are bidding higher for whatever crude is left. The baseline trading price of oil rises everywhere, regardless of where a country buys it. When India purchases that expensive international crude, the cost gets passed down the chain to the heavy commercial trucks that keep the domestic economy moving. Filling up a cargo truck becomes significantly more expensive. Transporting goods costs more, which means the price of moving a product from a factory to a store shelf goes up. It acts as a mandatory hidden tax that inflates the price of nearly every consumer item you buy. Ultimately, as long as an economy relies on imported fuel, it remains at the mercy of drone strikes in the Baltic Sea and chemical fires in Texas. Breaking that reliance requires a massive shift toward domestic power generation. Expanding grid-scale solar and wind infrastructure is a critical step in reducing the daily demand for imported oil. It also requires maximizing local resources. Geologists have identified significant untapped domestic oil and gas reserves located directly within the territorial waters of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Expediting the exploration of those domestic reserves, alongside a rapid expansion of renewables, is the only permanent solution. Until a nation produces its own power, its citizens will always pay the price when a global choke point collapses.